So as we already discussed, many of us are coming out of a year with very limited social interaction. Along with this, there's actually seems to be a rebirth in the interest of mentorship as people seek to connect with others in the industry. This actually led to the Young Professional Division putting on a Meet Your Mentor event to try and match mentors and mentees together as requests continued to pile in. I also am aware that you, Kyle, recently began a mentorship as well. Now that you have that knowledge, is there a time in your life where you view mentorship as the most valuable? Along with this, what do you recommend to individuals in preparation for a mentorship?
Yeah, so I think as far as preparation, something that I do is I set up my mentor calls with my mentor once a quarter. And in doing so, I try to build a pretty structured agenda, at least at the time, of what I thought I wanted to talk about, but also questions, not just questions for me to ask my mentor, also to give my mentor an opportunity to self-reflect on some of the things that they're doing upon myself and ask for feedback, right? So to almost deliberately create a two-way dialogue. Not that there wouldn't be some naturally, but I think so the pre-planning to do that, to me, I think quarterly is always appropriate, but starting up with some type of cadence of when to meet and how often, what is enough time in between to really create good dialogue, to be able to collaborate, to be able to give yourself the chance before that meeting to self-reflect, I think is important to build that really good agenda for what you want to cover. And then the other piece I think is important as far as preparation is I would not plan any more than a year in advance. So I would set, the way I did was I set up my 4 calls with my mentor for quarterly. And then at the last one in my agenda, I built basically time for us to talk about how is this going. So let's check and adjust together. Is quarterly working? Is it not working? Do you feel value in this as a mentor? Because it's really not just about the mentee, right? And in that example, I'm the mentee, but I want to make sure my mentor feels like they look forward to these calls because it gives them the time to take a deep breath, to sit, to not sit there and watch pie their process, right? But really think about people, think about development, think about what can I do to grow and develop the next generation. And in that last call, it's, do you see enough value to continue this and for me to schedule another year, right? And I think while that seems simple, I also think there's a huge sign of respect from the mentee to the mentor in doing that, because it's showing respecting their time, right? So time is that thing that everyone wants more of, but we also know that a watch is a watch, right? So the hours are set, it's definite, and there's very few things rigid in our lives, but time is one of them. So I think I would recommend to anyone looking to set up a mentor relationship as the mentee to set it up for no more than a year, and then as part of that to look forward at that point in time to make sure that they still also see value. Garrett, your question about when in life does it make the most sense? It's tough because personally I'm biased by my own experiences, right? So for me, I would say my first couple of calls was really about balance in personal and work life. So at that point in time, I made my first relocation with a family. So all relocations before that was either just with, I guess, my fiance at the time before that, and no children. So this was my first move with children. And so I think we talked a lot about that. So for me, when's the best time? Me being biased and how it played out for me, I saw tons of value in having a mentor relationship formal in that period of time of my life. So big life moves. I was able to ask that individual what it was like for them to move with multiple kids. He has 4 children, right? So nowhere near what I went through, but also he can relate and kind of laugh and joke around what he's learned over now a couple moves with a family that every time has changed in size. So I think any time a big life move is about, I think is the appropriate time, but I don't want the group that watches this to feel restricted, constrained, or in any way, shape, or form like they're not fitting the mold, because the reality is there is no mold. Any point in time where you want to sit and really talk about career, talk about personal balance, talk about where you want to go with your team and what you see as opportunities that you want to close or improve to help the group, there's no time like the present. right? So if anyone has an inkling that there may be value in them creating that relationship and starting that program for themselves as a mentor or as a mentee, don't wait. Because the reality is you may have people that are completely flattered that you even thought of them as a mentor. And that right there will immediately build that bond and relationship that can likely last a career. And the opposite, you as a mentor, if you see someone that you really feel like, I feel like I can help this individual, I feel like I can self-reflect and look back at my own experiences and give them some good guidance, whether they want it or not, I think someone else receiving that information might feel totally grateful that you're willing to spend your time to talk about them and to give them advice, to give them feedback, to tell them, you know, if I knew this at 22, man, my life would be different now. So now that I see that that's where you are in your career, here's some advice I have for you. No matter what, there's no time like the present, and I really think that there is so much soft skills that can come out of, and relationships that can come out of that relationship. So I would say for anyone that's hesitant and thinking about it, I would recommend to do it, because worst case, what you can always do is have 2 or 3 calls and then decide now is not the right time.
Yeah, along with that, I want to pick out the fact that you said that, you know, the individual that you were a mentee to also had, you know, children, and that was a, you know, a connection point. I think that whole, you know, having something in common, having something where, you know, not just professionally they can provide to you, but personally is also very important. I started a mentorship about 6 months ago, and, you know, my mentor is not really even directly tied to the paper industry. You know, it doesn't have to be something where you're exactly moving towards professionally, because let's be honest, a lot of mentor mentee is, you know, more personal. You know, how do you personally grow yourself and your experiences? It's not how do you handle this technical problem. You have individuals within your own, you know, your own network that'll be able to support that. You know, mentorship is oftentimes more dedicated to personal growth towards, you know, whatever your next role is going to be.
Absolutely, yeah. For me, I chose my mentor as someone I'd worked with years ago. But to your point, Garrett, I chose the individual because more so because I respect him as a man, as a family man, as a man that's very involved in his religion, and also on top of that, someone that I looked at as someone I've always respected on a career level. But to your point, that was not the first reason. That was, you know, the third or fourth down, that he happened to also work for my company, and there's some synergies there. But the reality is those first 3 things probably would have won in a battle between those 3 or just career. So that's a great point. Pick someone that you really respect. You respect where they are in their life and how they handle themselves, how they communicate, and because there's always some way to learn and grow.